phone are going to talk to 9,000 people in the next 5 hours.
Tom, you're still relaxed, right?
We're going to talk to 9,000 people in the next 5 hours.
I'm relaxed.
There we go.
Okay, you see us streaming, David?
Not on LinkedIn yet.
We are. It might wait until 4 o'clock.
1 minute.
1 minute.
Okay.
Hello, everyone that just joined.
Hey, folks. I appreciate you all handling the back end. Makes me glad that I just have to smile and say depressing things. It's a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it won't be. Tom, you're still relaxed, right?
There's nothing broken yet, so I'm still relaxed.
There we go.
Except for I asked that question 5 minutes ago.
Are we live
Yeah.
on LinkedIn
I
yet,
think
David?
Nope.
We're live on YouTube.
Hey, YouTube.
Hi, YouTube.
Yeah, you're live on LinkedIn too.
Brandon Alexander.
What's up, guys?
Going on?
Hello,
bud?
hello.
What's happening?
What's happening, bud? How you been?
Good to see you, man.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Yeah,
Someone
man.
say they see it live on LinkedIn?
Yes.
Where do you
Yes,
see it?
you are.
I'm relaxed. Where's everybody sitting right now? What part of California or the country?
Paso Robles, California.
That's right.
Lodi.
Antica.
Oakland.
I'm in Clovis.
Carlsbad.
There you go.
Okay.
It's weird that I don't see it live on LinkedIn.
That's weird. Okay, I'm going to mute people for now.
There it is.
There it is.
Yeah.
I'm just admitting people right now, and then we'll get started in just a second here.
Sounds good.
David, you can give everybody warm fuzzies as they come in.
Yeah. There's lots of people coming in. Welcome, everybody. I wish we were meeting under different circumstances. You know, it's like how families all get together. It's either weddings or funerals.
Oh, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, this
man.
is good. This is a Thanksgiving. We got something to give thanks for. And
Yeah. Well, I'm
It's a big
thankful for
fight
what
as
you've
well.
been up to.
Thanks. Yeah, but it's it's before the Christmas, the main event that's coming up soon. I'm just glad that the schedule is really working around the holiday hours, so it's the axe won't be looming over so much. Oh, hey, Sully's on. Hey, Sully.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Tom Cotter. Hey, David Steele. My friends, how are you?
Really good.
Good.
Boy, Carter, you look great, brother. Man, you look great. You have
Thank
really, COVID's been good to you too, brother.
A lot of stress exercising. Mainly,
Okay.
it's every time I get nervous about net metering, I do some chin-ups. That's
Oh my
basically
gosh, you
life.
must be able to do 500 chin-ups then.
That's basically, yeah.
Well, I've invited, just so you know, I've invited my entire team, everybody, anybody and everybody. So if you see a lot of SunGrade guys on here, that's because I am super, well, I'm not stoked. I'm super excited that Tom Cotter and David Steele and you got together to do this. And I am super fantastically thankful because without you, and if everybody hasn't gone to and voted, sign the petition, do all the things that are necessary. I hope there's going to be a call to action at the end, but I invited everybody I knew. I sent the invitation out to thousands of people because this is like there has to be mission 1A for us right now in the solar world right now. So
Yeah, it's all hands on deck.
yeah. Hey Tom, how are you, brother?
Doing well. Just multitasking, letting people in. We're on right now. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and a bunch of different Facebook pages.
Excellent.
So
Well,
welcome all if you're coming from any of those platforms.
and what's so funny is when you say multitasking, he's also mining. I know we got some Bitcoin guys on here. So he's also mining at the same time while he's running his desk, while he's actually selling solar all simultaneously.
Yeah. And he's got one of those under his desk little like Peloton things. So you can't tell if it's like a little hamster wheel too. That's running the Bitcoin mine. It's all.
Yeah. I make my wife rides the bike every morning to mine Bitcoin.
That's it.
There we
Exactly.
Nice.
Look, Garrett Jones is in the house. Hey, Garrett, how are you, brother?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. Doing well.
Hey, welcome, Michelle.
Welcome, Michelle, another SoCal friend. So let's get started here so that we have enough runway to answer questions towards the end, and I'll keep admitting people as they show up here. So welcome, everyone. Welcome those of you who are fairly new to solar, and welcome those of you who are OGs of solar. We've got some talent on this call. We've got some experience. We've got some, we always have to say it, but we've got people who have been on the solar coaster ride for a while. So I want to introduce you to David Steele, who works very closely with me. He is helping me to co-host and facilitate this, as well as Cotter Lavin from CALSSA. So let me read this to you so that I get all of this in there. Carter's done so much. Other than just shaving his beard, he's done so much down. His beard down.
That was an accomplishment as well, though. That was
I know.
right up there.
We don't have enough seats for you and your beard to be on the Zoom at the same time. So Carter has helped companies across the distributed solar and storage industry grow sales and navigate the marketplace since 2006. Since 2016, Carter has more than doubled the California Solar and Storage Association's membership and deepened its member engagement, building the political power of the California solar industry and providing member companies the support they need to thrive. As CALSSA's membership director, he is responsible for helping solar and storage businesses get politically engaged and plugged into CALSSA's policy work, regulatory resources, and network of over 700 members. And let me say that I don't know if I don't see Joseph Smick from Service Finance on here, but he and I and some others helped to organize the Central California chapter of CALSSA. Let me just give a plug here. If you're not a CALSSA member after this, think about it deeply, but also think about getting involved in a local CALSSA chapter. Many of you are CALSSA members, and showing up to chapter meetings exposes you to other professionals, educates you, and provides a lot of value. So make sure you're engaging in there. So Carter, thank you for being with us. And anything that you want to say to kind of kick this off? If not, we can kind of jump into a couple questions here. And anything that you want to starting off?
Yeah, I mean, so I figure I'll just do a real quick, hey, net metering, what the heck is happening thing. For folks, there's a lot of people with a lot of different ranges of experience here. So I just want to make sure, one, we're at the same level. And then, as folks have questions or want to know, let's talk. But yeah, I'm here to be a resource. So first off, Tom, David, thank you so much for putting this together. It's, stuff like this is exactly how we win. Right now, the Utility Commission of California, the CPUC, is in the process of really radically rethinking net metering. That is that foundational policy that is what helps the California solar market be so successful. Like, when California versus Texas versus Florida, all these states are different because state level policy matters so much. And net metering is just the particularly for those of you who are newer, it's the, you send more power, you send power to the grid when you don't need it and you're making more, they give you a credit at about retail rate, and then at night you take power from the grid. It's just a very simple rules of the road. The utilities hate that. The utilities don't like the solar industry. They don't like that people on this call save customers a bunch of money on their electric bill every single day. And so what they've proposed, and they've tried this before, is they've proposed some pretty radical changes to this policy. And on December 10th, so coming up in less than a month, the Utility Commission is going to make their initial decision about this rule. What the utilities have proposed, just to put some general math out there for you, the utilities have put out a proposal for a $95 per month fee on any solar customer. So that alone, if you have a project that's like a 3 kilowatt system, they're not going to save, they would never save $95 a month. Like, so that alone crushes, that's about like 20% of the market right there. On top of that, they want to make it so right now your customers are getting about 26 cents, 27 cents, depending on what part of California you're in, when they send power to the grid. The utility wants to cut that down to 6 cents. So those two things together make it so, it's hard to run the math of saying, is that 80% or 85% of people in solar who lose their job? Is it 90%? But by the time we're talking about numbers like that, it is real bad and not what we want to deal with. And so this, and I'm happy to chat about different ways of helping people kind of wrap their head around those numbers, because those are kind of big and kind of scary. But the big thing at this 8 days is the Utility Commission is open to public comment. And so this is the part where we need to flood them with people in California basically saying, what are you doing? Why are you destroying this industry? What are you doing? What are you doing? Don't do that. And I see. So now is the period, we basically have 8 more days to be heard. After that, the Utility Commission basically stops listening. Not that I'm being recorded, never mind. So basically after the 8 days is when public comments no longer get heard. And that's, the part where then if they decide to kill the solar industry, they say, oh, well, we never heard you complain. So now's the part you complain. So at the very minimum, I imagine all of you have already gone to savecaliforniasolar.org, add your name there to make sure that the Utility Commission and the governor hears. We'll talk about the governor soon. But the big thing, though, is it's very easy to ignore you. It's very easy to ignore all of us on this call. It's very hard to ignore everyone that all of us talk to in the next week. There's 25 people on this Zoom. There's a bunch more tuning in. Just this call, the people here, we're going to touch easily 5,000 folks in the next week. This is how you get politicians to pay attention. You make it impossible to be ignored, and you make it impossible to be ignored by getting a whole lot of people speaking with one very clear voice, with one very clear ask, going through savecaliforniasolar.org. So that's like square one. That's the foundation. There's a lot of different angles about going this stuff too. There's things about the governor, the federal government. There's solar home mandates. So happy to take in any direction. But yeah, just wanted to kind of set the stage.
Thanks, Carter. Would you give us a little tour of NEM 1.2? Where have we come from? Because Mark Stout, hello, Mark is on the call. He's one of the main reasons that I'm in the solar industry. So thank you, Mark. Back when we got started, 2006-ish, in PG&E, we did tier shading. PG&E hadn't messed with baseline tier. There was 5, and we'd cover 80% or so of somebody's bill, and everybody was happy. And then things changed. So what's changed? Yeah.
So from PG&E's, so net metering has been a law since, I want to say like 90s. It's been the law of the land for a long time. And a big thing that happened was solar started to become successful. Big part, prices came down, financing came to be the case. And so in about 2015, 2016, well, the law had always been that the utilities had to do net metering, and originally it was kilowatt hour for kilowatt hour. So it was full credit, full everything. And the utilities just had to do it till they got to a certain cap of about 5% of their total power coming from it. And then the utilities were like, hey, we actually hate this. We hate that we are getting, a lot of people seem to be doing this. We don't like this. We feel like our lunch is being stolen by these solar people. And so in 2015, they went to the utility commission and said, hey, we'd love to just get rid of net metering, call it a day, just end it. And we, as CALSSA, at the time, the California Solar Energy Industry Association, CALSSA, we fought back. We got over 100,000 public comments in, and basically said, like, look, the solar industry is still, this is 2016, like the solar industry is still very young. We're still growing. Like, yes, we can change net metering a little bit. Like, it's one thing to set the rules when it's the 90s and like barely anyone was going solar, but these utility proposals are like way too intense, way too much. And it's like, let's kick this can down the road. And the utilities said, fine, we're going to switch to NEM 2, which was like, adding a little bit of fees, the non-bypassable charges, stuff like that. But part of it was the utility commission said, okay, but in 2020, we're all going to get back together and like really rethink this ground up. We're going to really think it. Then there was a global pandemic, and so that got pushed back into 2021. And so NEM 2 was always supposed to be kind of like the stopgap thing, and NEM 3 is the one that's for all the marbles. So this is going to be for, so NEM 3 is going to be the law of the land, the rules of the road, for like, the 6-7 years. Like this, there's not a NEM 4. NEM 4 is not being planned. The soonest anything could ever change would be like 2025. And so that's where we are. Because, foundationally, this, people like Mark or Sully, like, for folks who've been around the solar industry for a while, they're like, the utilities didn't used to be so bad. And it's like, yeah, but solar didn't used to have 1.3 million customers and 120,000 people going solar each year. We're a little bit harder to ignore. The utilities, not that they were ever magnanimous by any means. They've definitely tried to hurt us and make this harder, but they are definitely starting to feel the pinch a little bit, especially with what's happening with community choice aggregators, the CCAs. And so, utilities are throwing the kitchen sink at us, trying to shut this all down.
Why isn't the governor doing something about this? Why has it gotten this far? Isn't Newsom some environmentalist guy that likes solar?
So this is the part where I remind myself we're being recorded. I'll put it this way. Being the governor of the world's 5th largest economy is a lot. It's a lot on his plate. He's got a lot to do. That's very stressful. That's rough, and my heart goes out to him. There's that whole recall thing, and that just soaked up all of his attention for a very long time. And frankly, one part about, so there's a certain level that this just hasn't bubbled up to him. Like, he has this commission. He thinks the commission's going to do the job well. But one of the reasons why, this isn't on his radar is because he hasn't really heard. We've been knocking, we've been reaching out as CALSSA on behalf of folks. But this, the LA Times, I think last week ran their first article. They've now done 2 pieces about it. The Chronicle's about to do their first piece. But, like, Gavin Newsom, should he pay attention to this? Like, yeah, but like, should any of y'all's spouses or partners or, know about this as well? It's like, yeah, they probably should. Do they know? Probably not. Most people you talk to probably don't know about this yet. And so for Gavin, he's like deferring to his commission. He appointed all those 5 commissioners. He, hired them for the job. So he thinks he's trusting them. And he figures he has it under control. And the commission, they're basically being like sleptwalked off a cliff by the utilities. And so it's on all of us to wake them up. It's on all of us to make a ton of noise. And a big part that's really different about this fight as opposed to the NEM 2 fight and a lot of the other ones is normally a lot of the environmental groups there's more environmental groups that are a lot louder about this, but the environmental community is kind of split on a lot of this stuff. I could talk about that for a second, but basically, like a lot of the folks who normally would make a bunch of noise aren't. And so it's really on the solar industry. Like normally there would be, it's not that there was like die-ins at Jerry Brown's office and people throwing red paint on him saying, save net metering, your blood's on your hand. But like, there's a certain fervor that activists and nonprofits kind of bring to the table that companies tend not to. But that whole part of the equation has, there's definitely folks doing it, and there's like college groups protesting and stuff, but the ratio is very different. Like this is very much a kind of solar defending solar, and we have our allies, and there's like indivisible groups, but that's, it's been something that Lavin could ignore because there's been this recall and all this stuff. And so basically that's why we need to get over 100,000 public comments to the Save California Solar, is it makes it something that he cannot ignore.
And other than the 100,000 comments, because we are going to get that. I'm not taking it for granted, but we are going to get that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we could be doing?
Yeah. So the big thing is, to be honest, so we're going to probably we're like 9,000 away from 100,000. We'll probably hit that. But this is one of those, like, if we got to 150,000, this is even bigger, because basically the real thing is we need the governor to realize, like, he's up for re-election next year. There's the recall, all that stuff, but he's, he wants people to like him. And if he sees, wow, there's 120,000, 130,000, and that's something that also gets reporters to pay attention. So, the Fresno Bee, when, Tom says, hey, I'm in Clovis, you should write about this. This hurts solar people. And the Fresno Bee, they might say, like, okay, that's nice. I have a lot of other things to talk about. And you say, hey, 120,000 Californians have sucked up saying this. Like, all of a sudden that gets a little bit more attention. But the big thing is, it's not just solar workers and solar customers, but it's anyone you talk to. It's anyone who says, hey, Californians should be able to get solar. Like, your church should be able to get solar. Like, this really is the, go through your Rolodex. Like, it's COVID, you're probably not all socializing as much as you used to, or to some level. Like, it's a great excuse to get back in touch with some folks. Be like, hey, making sure you saw this thing, please sign that. So like that in the media, this just needs to be in the public, because right now what's already happened, and a big thing that CALSSA has been doing for months and months and months, is like the legal regulatory battles where the utilities put up their like multiple hundred pages of documents with footnotes and paragraph 2, subsection B, what have you. And like we as CALSSA put out our own, and there's like cross-examination. There's like a whole big legal battle. That's happening. That's kind of settled right now. And now it's the public opinion part. So we just need a lot of charming folks who talk to a lot of people all the time to get folks to click a button, which is good news. You all are, if you've sold a solar array, that's a lot harder than this. So you are, exactly who the solar army needs right now. So I'm feeling pretty good.
One of the questions that someone sent me, is there a connection from Newsom to PG&E?
So there is. Newsom's been a successful California politician for a decade, something like that. He was the mayor of San Francisco. He's been around. And to put it gently, when you're a successful politician in California, utilities, they're a multi-billion-dollar company, making a couple $1,000 donations here or there, pretty easy to do. And yeah, PG&E is a convicted felon, and they've murdered 84 people, and they've admitted this in court, and they've like being held to account. But that doesn't mean they're automatically going to lose. That doesn't mean they get laughed out of the room for any time they suggest, killing the solar industry, because they're viewed as a legitimate actor in the space. It's not like, if Sully went and killed 84 people, and then he was like, hey, politicians, can I give you $10,000 for your reelection campaign? They'd be like, no, get away from me. But if you're a utility, people say, oh, you've been around, you employ so many people, you support the Boys and Girls Club. It's your corporation. They're not dumb. They're many things. They aren't dumb. And so, but also, politicians are a lot of things, and like it's not. Politicians aren't dumb either, which for some of you I know might be a controversial thing for me to have said. But a big thing about kind of people power in getting a lot of folks to sign a petition and getting folks to be very obvious is that, a politician wants to say, it's like, look, hey, you're my bud. I like you, PG&E, or, you and I have worked together for a long time, but I have 100,000 people with pitchforks and torches at my door. I don't love you that much. Like, I'm going to go side with them. And the more people we have, the easier it is to get a politician to say, hey, look, I know where the wind's blowing. Like, I'm with the people. I'm here to represent them. And so, there's a lot of stuff about like politicians and money and the will of the people. It's a whole thing. But the more folks you get and the more focus you have, the easier it is to overwhelm and kind of overturn any sort of like corporate influence of money. Just because at the end of the day, the reason why politicians like getting political donations is it helps them with re-election. But if they're wildly unpopular and we could show, hey, look, here's 100,000 people, here's more voters who don't like it, they'd rather the voters than the money, because the money, you just get the money to get the voters. Like, any of you would rather have a nice stack of good, high quality leads rather than a larger marketing budget to go get the leads. Like, that's what that is. So for more information, let's hang out in real life without it being recorded. But
I've noticed there's a lot of just inaccurate material being put out. I'm imagining funded by the utility companies. Is there anything out there? Like, is there any like one that has a plan of how to combat that? Like, is there a site that's like telling the truth or something like that? Because I saw one from the NRDC. I was like, I actually messaged both of the authors. I'm like, really? Like, it was so skewed.
Yeah.
And you just wouldn't expect the NRDC.
No, I mean, the NRDC is on the side of the utilities on this one, which is really frustrating, to put it gently. So at savecaliforniasolar.org, we have a lot of the facts, we have the story, we have the information there. For those, and that's like, when you're talking to your friends or cousins and whatever, looking for that. The other thing is all this stuff, all this, like, I was talking about those hundreds of pages of reports from the utility or from the utilities and from us. That's all public. That's all at the CPUC's website. That we all have to publish our findings. And what's basically happening is everyone's there's 5 commissioners. We are all trying to convince the commissioner that we're right, the other side's wrong. The other side's trying to convince them that they're right and we're wrong. And so there's a lot of information and it goes in a lot of different directions. Frankly, it is a confusing thing for a commissioner. For me, I think the story is fairly straightforward. You have a corporate monopoly that has not had to compete for 100 years. They don't like that they have to compete. I kind of don't trust whatever they're going to say about the competition. Like, that's kind of, it seems like they're going to kind of juice the numbers. But so savecaliforniasolar.org has a lot of the details and the data about this. It is one of those things, like, it depends how you run the numbers, depends how you model it. The utilities have all their kind of claims, but at the end of the day, you going solar helps your neighbor. That's the story. That is everything. The utilities want to say it's the opposite. They want to turn Californian against Californian. But at the end of the day, you going solar helps your neighbor because you're making clean power in your neighborhood basically when it's needed. And it doesn't need to create all those power lines and all this stuff. Like, it lowers the, it's like if you stopped driving, if you started working from home, that's less wear and tear on the roads. That's less traffic for everybody else to battle through. Like, that's good. So Save California Solar has a bunch of the stuff on it. And it's very frustrating about NRDC.
Yeah. So there's, Mark Stout brought this up. So there's lots of different stakeholders in what could happen. So there's lots of, it's not just that the utilities have submitted something to the CPUC. There's different proposals in there, some of them vastly different. What do we think is going to happen? And you can answer that, or one of the other questions is, so how is this going to hurt solar? How is this going to kill solar?
Yeah, so those are very closely connected questions. So right now, basically, the Utility Commission says, hey, the heart and soul of the solar industry, we're going to mess around with it. What do people want to do? And basically, everyone throws their ideas in a pot. The commission looks at that, and they come up with whatever they want to come up with. And so there's I think it's 8 different entities have thrown their thing in the pot. We as CALSSA, we put our own in. It was very different than the utility proposal, as you might imagine. And, basically, so it's unlikely that the utilities are going to get absolutely everything they're looking for, but they are the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And to be clear, like the utility proposal would require, if you like your sales as they are, if your customers are happy with like either the monthly payments they're doing or the lifetime savings, if you're depending on how you're financing it. In PG&E territory, under an M3, you'd have to be selling at $1.30 a watt for your sales to go to an M3 and you not be affected. So if you're like, oh, I can sell at $1.30 a watt, I'm like, great, log out, don't worry about this webinar, you're fine, have a good time, put your feet up. If getting down to $1.30 a watt in PG&E for resi sounds not fun, then help us get some signatures. What I think is going to happen, and this is the not the official CALSSA thing, this is just having what happened in 2016, 2015 was utilities put out a fairly similar, not quite as bad proposal as what they did now. We had our counter proposal, and the utility commission was like, the utilities, everything they want, let's go for it. That was the initial decision, the kind of the December 10th thing. And the solar industry went bonkers, basically. Like we became this is this recording thing. It makes me realize how often I curse when I talk about this stuff. But the solar industry went really intense because it wasn't like, oh, hey, maybe this is going to happen. Carter's saying some scary thing. It was state of California says solar is going to go under, it's going to go bankrupt. Like it was like kind of what happened in Nevada and Hawaii. And so like people were like, oh, wow, this is real. It's not just something, like this is happening. And so because people flipped out, because people made a ton of noise, we got Jerry Brown to kind of switch sides. Jerry Brown, the past governor, he liked solar, he liked distributed solar, he got it. But, at the end of the day, he was deferring to his commission. That's why he had those commissioners. He didn't want to come and override him. But we flooded his office and, he was invited to talk at the climate thing in Paris, and a reporter put a microphone in his face saying like, hey, you're about to talk to the international community about how great California is. Your utility commission is about to destroy the solar industry, so like what gives? And the utility commission before the final decision came up with a new final decision, and that's NEM 2. It's not great, it's not as good as NEM 1, but it's a heck of a lot better than they were originally saying. So what could happen is on December 10th, the Utilities Commission puts out a terrible decision saying like, hey, starting in July or August of 2022, all your customers are going to have to pay a $70 a month fee. See, we're not giving the utilities everything they want. It's a $70 a month fee. And your customers will get 10 cents a kilowatt hour, not 6. Don't worry. That basically just now the solar industry shrinks by 60%, not 80%. And, I don't know about you guys, but I'm not happy with that. I will not call that a victory. And so then what would have to happen is everyone flip out. That's the part where Weston and Joey, who, I don't know how many signers you got now, but like this is after December 10th, that's the part where you're like, oh, wow, I'm going to spend my day calling every single phone number I have saved in my phone and get them to do it. And that's the part where instead of being like, oh, hey, we're almost at 100,000, that's when we're at like 500,000. And then Gavin Newsom sees he's up for re-election. We now have 500,000 people speaking out. And then he makes a call to a utility commissioner or something like that. And now the commission might have a different decision. That could be how this goes down.
How it could go down, right? We don't have a crystal ball. It's just how it could go down.
Yeah, I would much rather that we get 150,000 people signing in the next 8 days, and by December 10th, the utility commission instead says, let's not destroy the solar industry, and they just kind of skip to the compromise bit where it's like the utilities get, 20% of what they're looking for, and it gets phased in over 7 years or something like that we can all live with. I would rather not go through the whole process where we're told that we're all about to lose our jobs and our homes and fall behind on our mortgages and our rents and our kids' school tuition, all that stuff, and then we flip out and do all that other things. Like I would rather we do a whole lot of stuff right now, win decently on December 10th, and then you all can spend a bunch of your time December and January making a bunch of sales rather than spending your December and January getting, you know, 250,000 more signers. So yes, we have pulled off miracles in the past. Don't count on miracles. You know, there's I know a lot of folks. I mean, I used to sell commercial solar, and you know, our manager was a big fan. He was like, "Look, if you just want to work one day a year and you hit your quota on that one day, and that day is December 31st, go for it. I don't care. That's probably not going to work for you, but you know, if you can do that, go for it." It's like, yeah, let's not rely on that miracle.
So we've been having a lot of other people join. How about if we kind of just bullet point things that are on the table, and also there's some questions about what about all of our existing customers over the years that we have on NEM 1 and NEM 2?
Yeah. So NEM 1, NEM 2 customers, you're fine. This is not going to impact you. The utilities, once again, they're many things. They're not dumb. They learned earlier this year when they tried something very similar in the legislature, and some of you might be like, this sounds familiar. They tried to get a law passed that was basically this, but the law they proposed would have also hurt existing solar customers, which it's rough for the families that you sell to, but also like a ton of schools have solar. There's a ton of schools that have solar, saved a ton of money, and because of that, they hired teachers. So retroactive cuts to solar gets teachers fired. And that was something that once politicians realized that was what was happening, that like the utilities had asked for that much, they're like, oh, wait, we don't want to fire a couple hundred teachers in the middle of a global pandemic or kind of ever. No, we're not going to do retroactive cuts to solar. So your NEM 1, your NEM 2 folks, they're fine. Those are not who the utilities are picking on. But okay, the bullet points of what's being proposed. So
before we do that, is there a proposal?
Okay.
Is there a proposal to kick people off NEM 1 and NEM 2?
So there is, it's not in the utility proposal. One of like the 7 or 8 proposals does have a thing about anti-NEM 1, NEM 2. That, I'm not a person who speaks in certainties a lot, but that's like
far down the line.
Yeah, that is your customers are fine. But it's also one of those things that like, you know, when we have 100,000, 200,000 people signing this petition, speaking up, like that just, the more political power we have on our side, the less that we have to be changed. You know, the more powerful we are, the less change we get.
Right.
When do you think,
sorry to interrupt you.
When do you think the cutoff date is going to be for being grandfathered in?
Sorry, say that again?
When do you think, how much time do you think we'll have before, you know, we would be on the new program?
Yeah, so your customers, as long as there's 2 things happening. One is as long as they're getting their interconnection application in before the NEM 3 final decision in January, you're totally fine, you're totally golden, you're fine. From January to like April, there might be some weird, you have NEM 2 for 10 years. Like there might be some kind of phase-in thing. That's where it gets a little iffier. That will be finalized in that January decision. So if your customers are at all persnickety, at all nervous about this, before the January announcement is when you need to have your interconnection application in. So you don't have to have the project, you know, it's not PTO, it's the interconnection application. And then they'll probably be fine till like April of 2022. That's when things get a little dicier.
So mid-January for Resi, for final interconnection agreement, right?
For interconnection paperwork submitted.
Okay.
So I know in Resi and commercial, they have like different timelines on that, but for commercial, there's like 10-month lag between those points. But it's you getting all your paperwork in. That's what reserves your spot.
Okay.
And on December 10th, with the initial decision, those dates will be firmed up more, or they should be. The Utilities Commission should be announcing that stuff as part of December 10th.
We were going to talk about bullet points for what's kind of on the table, right? We talked about monthly fees that range
Monthly
from
fees, yeah, so it's about $95 a month is the easiest way of thinking about that for your residential projects. For commercial, it's in the thousands, but it's kind of at that comfortable level. And it goes up. Oh, really big thing. Those fees go up if you have a battery. So for those of you who may be thinking,
why can't I just get solar and a battery and not use power?
yeah, so this might not come as a huge surprise, but so the utilities have like more than one lawyer, and they thought about this for like a couple of minutes, and they were like, what Tom Cotters is going to try to pull? He's going to try to get a battery. And our job is really, as the lawyers for PG&E and the lobbyists, our job is to be like, screw Tom Cotter. Like, that's basically, they don't know your name, but like, that's, kind of what they're thinking about. And they're like, oh, so I forget exactly what the logic is, because they can't, one reason why I'm not the biggest fan of politics is because I do like just being like, look, just say, utilities, just say that you hate solar and you hate competition. Just stop pretending it's something else. But no, so they gussy it up. And I believe their line is like, so if you have solar and a battery, they think don't pick on Tom. I'll pick on, no. They say it's like, look, well, you're getting compensated that 6 cents that they want to pay you instead of the 28 cents that you're getting now. They're saying like, that's the value of the solar. But if you're getting a battery and you're not sending over the solar, then you're being really selfish. That's very selfish of you. And you still need to use their wires, even if you don't ever export, you still need to use their wires. And so they're going to punish you for that perceived selfishness. Now, that's kind of like the grocery. It's like if you grow your own tomatoes and the grocery store charges you for negative tomato usage, like it doesn't make sense. And some of you might be thinking this doesn't make sense. And I hate to break it to you. Governments and utilities don't have to make sense. That's not, it doesn't have to. It makes sense for them. And so even though solar is all about like self-reliance and supporting communities, for the utilities, that's somehow a very bad thing because what they really want is reliance on them because they're the ones who are selling. So those fees go up if you have a battery to the point which it makes batteries, like we ran a bunch of numbers on like payback periods of like, okay, a solar array in PG&E pays for itself in about 6 years now if you're doing a cash deal. Under the rules, it would be a 20-year payback period if the utilities get what they want. And to Rusty's thing, if you add a battery, that pushes back the payback period. So even if you're never exporting, they get you on the fees. So you might be fine on the kilowatt hour usage, but the fees that they're going to charge you. Now is the part where someone says, well, what if I just don't tell the utility I'm doing this? And what if I don't get any of the paperwork done? And what if I just do all this illegally? At which point I just kind of sigh infinitely. And, I don't think PG&E is going to have sheriffs bang down your door, but that's not great. Good question about what's this do for SCHIP. So this would, these proposals hurt the payback for solar so much that, solar is required on every new home. It's required on every new home as part of energy efficiency rules. Basically, the rules say from the state of California that if solar makes financial sense, you have to put it on new homes. And so I like the questions, Rusty, but it's very distracting. I'm going to have to minimize them. But basically, the new proposal, the solar mandate is based off the fact that solar saves you money. If solar doesn't save you money, then the mandate goes away. So you have this one department of California, the Energy Commission, who just put a mandate for solar on new homes and just put a mandate of solar on new commercial buildings starting in 2023. But the Utility Commission's decision about nuking NEM 3 could totally undo that. And that's will be a whole other fight that we have to do. But there's the state of California. It's got a lot of different things, but the Utility Commission, it doesn't all have to piece together nicely. It could all be painful. And so there's these fees, there's lowering the credit your customers get from that 28 cents they get now to about 6 cents a kilowatt hour. And they're switching people to a monthly true up as opposed to the annual true up, which I saw Garrett's eyes flare up. Yeah, so that's basically the math works that it would only be very small systems because you can't overproduce in the summer and then go for the winter. It's basically the utility proposal is we would like the solar industry to shut down and we'd like to kick Garrett Jones in the shins. Okay, well, we can't do the second part. Like, how can we just do all the other stuff? And that's, once again, the utilities, they're many things. They're not dumb though. So they're asking for twice what they want. They're asking for like complete death and destruction of the solar industry because they know that the utility commissioner is like, hey, we're not going to give the utilities everything. We'll just give them monthly true ups and a $95 a month fee. And we won't mess with that lower kilowatt hour thing. Like, see, aren't we great? It's like, no, guys, the monthly true ups alone would like kill 20% of the market. So yeah, that's one of the big things going on.
Are the utilities pro them having the solar panels and selling it to everyone? Would that be a fair thing to say so that they can still keep charging rates whatever they like?
Yeah, I mean, utilities are very pro them. They love themselves. Great for them. And so one of the things that they've done is they've proposed that they're going to do about 40 gigawatts of solar in the desert. So they're saying to the commission and they're saying to the governor and they're saying to environmentalists, like, don't worry, baby. Like, we're going to get you all the solar you want. We don't need Tom. We don't need Sully. Like, I'm going to do 40 gigawatts, which like even China's like, you're doing how many gigawatts? Like even just, it's an absurd amount that they said they're going to do. But so, that's part of why this has been such a hard fight. And this has been, there's definitely environmental groups on our side and, the Vote Solar is helping out. There's definitely folks helping out, but it's very much a kind of a distributed solar led effort. It's very much like all of us on this call defending ourselves and our careers. Like, it's not Cheryl, Hannah, it's not famous environment, pick your polar bear hugging Hollywood type. Like, it's not them stepping in on this stuff. Like, this is us saving us.
Yeah, it's anti-consumer and anti-distributed solar industry, right?
Yeah.
A monthly true up would be devastating for sure. Like a lot of the things, but that for sure.
Yeah, and it's one of those, they're asking for so much, and there's a part where it makes us look weird because we're like, no, all these things are bad, and the utility commission's like, come on, you can't just have a little death and destruction. And we're like, no, these are all bad. These are all so terrible, and so that's like part of why this is like, we're talking about like the battle of the facts and the stories, but there's a certain level where this is just like so absurd of a fight that the only way to really win and to like be comfortable is to show that we have an army, is to be like, look, here's 100,000 people at Save California Solar. Here's 200,000 people, whatever number we get to. Because even a regulator, even a politician who's the most, not paying attention or totally tuned out, 100,000 people gets their attention, and so there's a certain level of like, just showing people that they are really messing up that really kind of breaks through the kind of like echo chamber of, people who, oh, here's how it's supposed to be. So we really just need to like get really loud.
So we've got higher monthly fees. We've got additional charges for batteries. We've got potentially changing true ups from annual to monthly. And we've got dropping the credit value for a solar kilowatt hour down to 6 cents.
Yeah. But they're not going to like kick your childhood dog. So aren't they being so lovely? It is. Oh, and this all, we're all assuming the investment tax credit gets extended. So every number, the 20-year, all that stuff, I'm like, we're just kind of assuming that Washington, D.C. does their thing. So I'm seeing some people, I'm seeing some like frustration thing. There is good news about this. the good news is the villain we are up against is cartoonishly evil. Like, the good news is the issue is not that, like, oh, Gavin Newsom's, like, Gavin Newsom's not chumming with the utilities. Like, PG&E is a felon that killed 84 people. Edison has also done terrible things. San Diego Gas and Electric, I guess, is fine in some people's books. Like, these folks are wildly unpopular. The issue is that this fight is happening in such an esoteric thing. Like, a lot of you, there are probably two people on the call. This is the first time that they've, like, really sat down and been like, so, net metering, what's going on? And you're people whose, like, direct livelihoods are at stake. So, like, it makes sense that Gavin Newsom has not really been paying attention to this. The good news, then, is that he doesn't really care about PG. He's not, like, in love with them. And so as long as we get a lot of people speaking out on SaveCaliforniaSolar.org, because that's, like, the public comments, like, as long as we have a lot of people being officially heard, that will spur a lot of action. And because utilities are proposing such cartoonishly bad things, that will make it very easy for the governor to, like, put himself in front of the camera and say, it's important that California stand with solar. It's important that we do this. And that's why I'm calling upon my utility commission to make the right choice and reject these terrible proposals. Like, this is the right choice is very easy to see. It's very easy to make. It just, he needs to be woken up. And one reason why I feel really good and why I'm able to sleep at night is, like, so there's, a couple dozen folks listening on this call. You all today, collectively, all of us on this call probably talked to 5,000 people today. Easy. Tomorrow we'll talk to another 5,000 people. Every one of them signing that, boom, now we're at, I think we'd be at 96,000. We have 8 more days, keep doing that. That's already, we're at 130,000. And that is just this call. There are other companies, there are other people doing their thing. Like, the solar industry is foundationally filled with people who are very charming, good on a phone, talks to people all the time. We just need to make sure the, hey, sign at Save California Solar is in the text, the email, the phone call, the Facebook post, the LinkedIn post, the YouTube thing. Like, we just need to be pushing that out, and we'll get there. And if we get the numbers, the governor's going to get on our side. We just have to do that work. So the good news is, like, so like Sully or Anders, kind of like shaking your head because some of the stuff is scary. Like, Garrett, your eyes popping out. Like, yeah, this stuff is scary. The good news is, it's not like, okay, and now we all have to do a really intense math, whatever. Like, the skills that we all need to use are the skills that we all have in spades. And that's going to be our way forward, which is pretty nice. Like, I feel like, hey, Carter, now you have to do 5 backflips in a row to save the solar industry. Like, well, I can't do that, but I can call 1,000 people in the next couple of days. Like, so let's do that.
So we could talk a lot about all of the impacts. I mean, you think about, Carter, you were just in Clovis a few years ago celebrating 1 million solar rooftops in California. That's just
you,
down
me,
the
Arnold
street from my
Schwarzenegger.
house.
Yeah.
So we've done a lot of good things with solar in the state, and if things, if the CPUC gives the utilities what they want here, there's broad ramifications across the solar industry, storage. You think about, all of the houses that have solar, people live in their houses 5 to 7 years. They sell that house, they start new service with the utility, they get the latest rate plan. Think about people, it was mentioned, Scott mentioned it in the chat, people adding batteries later on and getting put on a new, NEM schedule or adding solar. So you just posted the Google Doc in here about sample tweets, emails, things you can send to friends. Tell us what we can do in, how many days do we have left?
8. So the big thing to do is, it's the things that you all are great at doing all the time, which is sell this idea. And it is ask a bunch of people, email them, call them, text them, SaveCaliforniaSolar.org, ask them to sign it. And then one thing I love about talking to salespeople is they get it. So what you have to do then is follow up. It was very funny talking to some of the engineers of the solar industry about this. Lovely folks, great people. And they're like, no, I sent the email. It's like, cool, that's great. any salesperson knows that you can't be like, yeah, I sent them a quote. That's good. Like you really got to keep pushing. You got to send it a couple times. And that's a great part about having 8 days left is so you all have time to like send the big tweet out to the, you know, send the big text or the email push out to all your folks today. Be like, hey, look, I just attended a terrifying talk, making sure you sign that thing. And then 3 days later, you're like following up, making sure you do this.
And make sure you,
I mean,
make
the great
sure,
news is
make sure you mention Carter Lavin by name. I just heard
There
a
you go.
terrifying talk, and Carter told us that
Like,
PG&E is going to crush us.
yeah, Carter, who's normally so bubbly and happy, and just some of you meeting me for the first time, I normally am like a much more chipper person. But the other good news as part of this is like, so CALSSA, we have over 700 member companies, you know, and this is, yeah, it's the Sunruns and the Teslas and the, you know, kind of big folks, but it's also the small outfits and single person shops. And they're all doing this too. They're all pushing this out. They're all getting all their customers to do it. They're all like, everyone is starting to bang that drum. And so the good news is like, you are not alone. You know, this is, you know, pick your thing, you know, but like, you're not exactly going into the battle of the bulls with one person. You're not, you know, it's, you got the whole solar army with you, fighting on this. And so, you know, it's a great thing to look at the Save, like we have the ticker on the Save California Solar, the sign page, you can see how many people have signed it. And like you click refresh and 10 more people popped up. It is not the clicking the refresh that does that. It is the, you know, everyone else doing the work. And so I'm really glad to getting you all plugged in because, you know, SunPower and Sunrun and all these like big folks, they've been pushing this out for a while. A lot of the small and medium folks are doing it too. And it's a great way to, you know, engage your folks. It's a great, we've been hearing a lot of good stories of people getting past clients signed up or past like cold leads, you know, folks who just fell off the face of the earth. And you're like, you know, I'm going to text them. They, you know, they haven't responded to anything. I'm going to just ask them to sign it. And that's gotten people re-engaged. So, you know, I'm sure, you know, all of you are really good at managing your various lists. But like, this isn't just for your people who just signed and are really happy. This is also for like literally anyone whose email address you got, send them this stuff. And who knows, you might get a couple of deals out of it too.
Carter, is there a media list anywhere of outlets and places that we could run out to for positive articles or, you know, articles talking about the challenges? Like, is there a media strategy?
Yeah, so there is, let me drop the media list in the chat. So this is a roundup of a whole bunch of a lot of the coverage that's been done. We also have a PR firm that's working with folks. But the other thing too is, you know, everyone is the media strategy. So like saying like, hey, your local, like we had our director of policy called into I think it was like the Chico area radio, KPAY this morning, because a member reached out to them and was like, hey, this is not just some like PG&E, whatever esoteric story. This is local companies being threatened to be destroyed by, you know, large corporation. Can you do a thing? And people are like, great, do you have an expert? And then they plug this in. So always feel free, I'm going to drop my info. Always feel free to say, hey, Carter, I got a live one. I got something interesting, you know, someone talking, but like, go talk to your reporters. They, at the end of the day, I am the oily, greasy lobbyist, you know, like they don't care about me. I'm just some hack, but they care about like, here's Mark's freaking out. Here's Gary. Here's like people in the community talking to them. So, you know, really go out, talk to people. Yeah.
I noticed even in one of our local magazines, I think it was like Encinitas Coast News or something. There was like just a super biased article about how unfair this is for the energy companies, you know, and you know this is going to help the adoption of solar even more. And I'm just like, what? I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah. Well, and this is it's really nice to be made of money, which you know utilities are, and they're made of our money. We pay them. That always. My spouse and I, we've gotten a lot better at we don't fight about leaving lights on anymore. But point out, it's like, this money goes to PG&E. You know what they do with that money? Trying to destroy my job. Turn that light off. I've learned a happier spouse is much more valuable than an angry PG&E. No, but like PG&E just has, like we have one PR agency. We've been working on this. PG&E's PR folks are like deeply enmeshed. You know, there's a reason There's a reason corporations sponsor like local Girl Scout troops, the Boys and Girls Club. And yes, it's because they all have just warm puppy dogs and rainbows in their heart, but also because it's good to be viewed as a good corporate citizen, and that when they reach out to reporters, they get like the nice, easy quotes in the conversation. And so it's very important for you all to also be very known in your community. And so go and talk to folks. And like most reporters just don't know. Like you're there to educate them. So like, don't go in hot and ready to fight. Like even if someone wrote a bad article, they just know because PG&E has a million reporters. Like they're just learning from folks, and you're there to help them out. So local magazine, local alt weekly, local Christian radio station, like whatever you got. We're just kind of at the point where we just need this to be the thing that everyone knows about.
Yeah. And if you're watching this on as it's being streamed and you're not on our Zoom with us, go to savecaliforniasolar.org and sign the petition. If you're looking for some of the resources that Carter shared with us on sample tweets, emails to send to friends, if you're in the solar industry, it has an email to send to customers. Post a comment, and I'll share that with you in the comments on the platform.
Yeah, or send me an email and I'll send you the link directly. Either or.
Yeah. Carter at CALSSA.org. That's Carter's email.
That's me.
All right, we've got time for one more question. If anyone wanted to ask a question while we've still got Carter here.
Hey, Carter, I just want to take a minute to say, thank you for everything you're doing, because it's just our livelihood. So, we don't appreciate it at all. But thank you very much. And I think we probably should jump on again and do this again, possibly even next week. The more we do it, the better.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
Thank you. No, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad to talk with you all. I'm so happy you all have taking your time this Veterans Day to speak with me and to listen to this. And my job in the next my job is very easy. It is equip and arm all of you to go out and do this and answer any of your questions. So yeah, let's do this again. I'm very excited. And if so we got Straight Talk and some other folks, always happy to chat. Send me your questions. Let's talk. Let's go win.
Sounds good. Thanks, Carter. Thanks for everybody
thank you,
else.
Carter.
Thanks, folks. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Tom.
Appreciate you all for coming. Thank you.
Thank you.